All right, everyone, welcome back to another crossover episode. The Florida Panthers are up on our list, and today I'm joined by fellow hockey content creator on YouTube, Flying Fluffy. How are you doing?
I'm good, man. I appreciate you doing this. When you reached out to me, after I thought about it for about a half a second, and I started running down the list of players, especially lately, it seems like every trade the Panthers make is to the Penguins. I will say the one year that we made the Cup Finals, we did beat the Penguins on the way.
Okay, that was before my time, but yeah.
But that was probably it. Might have been before you were born.
It was.
Yeah. That was in '96. So no harm, no foul there. I've got a few guys from back in that era because, as you can tell, that's back at my time.
I'll start, and we'll just get this guy out of the way. He's my number one on my list. Again, if you guys are new to the series, these picks are in no particular order. They're not organized by any way, shape, or form. And I'm throwing Jaromir Jagr out there and getting him out of the way. He's Jaromir Jagr. What else do you need to say about him? 11 years in Pittsburgh.
I would have liked to have seen him stick around for another year with Barkov and Huberdeau. And we haven't. Barkov and Huberdeau worked with Jagr. It was just magical. But without him, they've been together and they've been apart. And together they just overpassed too much back and forth. And Jagr was the glue that held that all together. Okay, well, I'm going to go a little bit old school here now. With Jagr out of the way, I've got to go right into the Barnes and Woolley for Chris Wells trade. Now, this was, like you said, this was before you. The Panthers, we had just finished 95-96. We had just made it to the Cup Finals. We had beaten along the way. I'm not sure particularly the order, but it was the Flyers, the Bruins, and the Penguins along the way. And a huge, the heartbeat and soul of the team, with the exception of Van Beesbrook, was Stu Barnes. And we also had a defenseman named Jason Woolley. And Chris Wells had been floating around in the minors and playing for the Penguins here and there. He was this big, strapping center that was supposed to be this great, the next coming of whoever you want to think about. And long story short is the Panthers, the season after we made the Cup Finals, we started off the next season, I think it was 38 games in, and we had the best record in the NHL. We were flying high, and our management decided to trade Barnes and Wooley's for this prospect, Chris Wells. And Stu Barnes went on to have a wonderful career, including with Pittsburgh, and Woolley went on to have a long career. And Wells played a couple of years for us. Maybe he had 20 combined goals in about 4 seasons, and he never played for another NHL team again.
All right. Well, speaking of a trade that we're not fond of, I want to talk about Patric Hornqvist, who I have on this list. I love Patric Hornqvist. I don't think this trade is, a loss for the Penguins, but I don't think it's a win either. I don't think it's a win for you guys either, or a loss. It's just kind of been a meh trade. The net front presence that this guy provides is absolutely insane. I don't think there's anyone better outside of Thomas Holmstrom. Like, I cannot think of someone that is so good in front of the net. He's such an agitator. I would hate to play against Patric Hornqvist, and I would love to have him on my team. I just love the guy. 2017, the goal that he scored in the same building against the team that drafted him, last overall pick in the draft, Nashville. Love him. Absolutely love him to death. First ever modern Penguin that I met.
So
Patric Hornqvist right there. Love the guy.
Oh, nice.
Matheson looked good. Needed a little bit more offense out of him. His skating is so impressive. He can hit. He's more physical than I thought he was. He lit up the Islanders a lot. I don't know why the Islanders. He likes playing against them, but he was very good there.
So my take on that whole thing is extraordinarily similar to yours, in which we basically traded cap that we'd rather not take on. And the interesting thing for you is, any Panther fans that are going to hear your take on Matheson, anybody who watched him play with the Panthers is thinking, what? Huh? Because his problem with the Panthers was too much offense. He always wanted to go. And he didn't have the hockey sense to know when to go and when to come back.
Looking at his stats right now, He had the lowest season in terms of points overall outside of his rookie year, but he had the best plus minus in his career. He had a minus 24 season in 18-19, which is amazing. He was a plus 9 this year. Cody Ceci has a lot to do with that.
Okay, so let's with this. This is going to be a twofer here. A lot of these are twofers. Bjugstad and McCann. And basically, again, we traded them for, traded them for Brassard and Sheehan, which we let go. Yeah, and I know you guys got rid of Bjugstad. And now Bjugstad, the poor guy, man, when he first came out with us, he looked like he was going to be the prototypical, you want him at, even maybe not so much 1C, but definitely he looked like a legit 2C. And then he hurt his back. Yep, he hurt his back. He came back. He was never the same. And just, I saw the same thing happen with you guys. I mean,
I think what speaks for itself is the way he left Pittsburgh. He was on LTIR, and he was traded to Minnesota for a conditional 7th-round pick, and half of his salary was retained by Pittsburgh. That's how he fell off. He was a first-round pick, was he not? Conversation around that trade when it happened was this Jared McCann guy might be the best player in the trade, and I will tell you and I will confirm that Jared McCann is the best player in the trade. It's not the Nick Bjugstad or Derek Brassard trade anymore. It's Jared McCann trade, and he's a pending RFA next season. He better re-sign with the Penguins. I am a massive Jared McCann fan. He was spectacular. I don't know if he finished leading in power play goals. I know he was at the top somewhere. I know all but 5 of his goals in the season came on the power play. But, he was – I didn't want him to be the next Max Domi that got traded so many times early in his career, and he just was never able to find his footing. He played the wing when he initially came over, and it was Gensel, Crosby, McCann. But this past year, he looked really good with Frederick Gaudreau and Jeff Carter, of all people. So,
and it's going to be another one of those players that didn't work out for us. It sounds like it's working out for you guys.
And real quick, we'll go over the guy we just mentioned on my list as well, Erik Gudbranson. And I also had Nick Bjugstad, so there's another name I can cross off my list. Erik Gudbranson.
Yeah, our lists are probably very similar.
Yeah, Erik Gudbranson was traded to the Penguins at least 1-for-1 for Tanner Pearson, who was also traded 1-for-1 for Carl Hagelin. Everyone looks at him as oh, he could be the next, big, rugged Zdeno Chara-like presence. He's not very offensively gifted at all.
No.
But it hasn't really worked out in any team that he's played for. The longest he spent in any team was Florida, 5 years.
One day he thought he was going to be the captain of the Panthers, and the next day, don't buy a house, man. Just rent.
Only thing I'll say to add on to Branson was, and you guys are hockey fans watching this video, I don't even have to explain this. The Penguins walked into the 2019 Stanley Cup playoffs and got swept by the Islanders. Their third defensive pairing was Jack Johnson and Erik Gudbranson.
So I've got 3 that you probably won't have on your list. So what else do you have that might be on mine?
I have another recent player who was a Stanley Cup champion, who is on the Florida Panthers, I think still currently, unless he's a pending UFA, but not a lot of people know about him. Scott Wilson.
This is the one I got to look up while you're talking.
Scott Wilson, yeah. He's in the minors for you guys. I don't even think he played a game.
Oh, okay.
But the reason I bring him up is because he's a Stanley Cup champion with Pittsburgh, and I believe the Penguins drafted him as well. 7th-round pick, and for a brief stint in the 2017 playoffs, he played on the line with Evgeny Malkin.
All right, so the 3 that I have that probably you don't have, the first one is Tomas Vokoun.
I have Vokoun.
You have Vokoun. Okay, good. That another guy with the poor guy with the blood clots. I mean, he had to stop playing, and then he comes back and he stops playing again. And I mean, he did really, really well for us. And I know, a lot of people. Obviously, we had the whole Luongo thing where we got rid of Luongo, but Vokoun really, really had a decent career here with us. And I hated to see. I wanted to put him in because I hated to see how he if you look at his career, it got cut short. You know what I mean? He was a really good goalie on some really bad teams.
That is exactly what I have to say about him. Looking at his stats right now, he had 2,213 saves, or shots against, 2,033 saves in 07-08. He played for some bad teams, both Nashville and Florida. I also remember specifically that I believe he was the player that he got scored on, and then his defenseman was mad, and he took his stick. And
Broussard.
Who
it's all over YouTube. If anybody hasn't seen that, I think it was Broussard was the guy's name, the defenseman's name.
Okay.
And it's all over YouTube. Yeah, he had to go to the hospital for a lacerated ear, is what I read.
2012, 2013, the Penguins were amazing. This is the year that I just absolutely went all in on the team, and the team did as well. This was the year where they went all in and got a Ginla at the deadline, and another name I have on my list, Jussi Jokinen, Douglas Murray, Brendan Morrow. They went all in to the 2013 Eastern Conference Finals, was swept by the Boston Bruins. Marc-Andre Fleury was not good.
Right.
In response to 2012, where the Penguins got lit up by the Flyers and had I think it's still one of the highest scoring playoff series on both sides, because it was Brizgalov and Fleury in that series. It was just crazy.
It was crazy.
The Penguins went out and signed a veteran goaltender by the name of Tomas Vokoun, who the fans didn't like because they still supported Fleury. It was like, no, don't take Fleury out. The playoffs, it was a 1A, 1B situation. In some situations, Vokoun would get the playoff start over Fleury.
So you mentioned Jokinen.
Love him. Absolutely love him. Shootout legend. I think he's probably the best player in NHL history when it comes to the shootout. He was so good. Him and Datsky. He was just absolutely incredible. Jokinen, as I mentioned, came over at the deadline, but he wasn't a pure rental. He had a year left on his deal.
When Jokinen was here, the dude was every game was the same player. You know, like some guys like Huberdeau, man, he's either on fire or invisible. Yeah. But Jokinen, every game was just the same. You knew exactly what to expect out of him every game. And he always seemed to be the guy that would score right when you needed the big goals. You know, he'd be invisible for 3 or 4 games, and then all of a sudden get 2 in the third period and win you a game.
But I want to talk about Alexi Kovalev, who spent 2 separate stints with the Penguins. Did not play for the Panthers for that long. But Kovalev, longtime NHL player. I think he could be in the Hall if he wanted to. He's a pretty decent player. Played 1,300 games, over 1,000 points. Didn't really win anything outside of a Stanley Cup with I believe the Rangers in '94. He's not really remembered because he wasn't on good teams, and that's as simple as it is.
We picked him up. That's the year. That was the year that we won the Southeast Division, and we picked him up there right at the end. I remember now them the announcers talking about how maybe he has a little bit of juice left for the playoffs. All right, so I've got one that maybe you know about, maybe you don't. But if you don't, when you see it, you're gonna be like, ah. So another guy that was a big part of the Panthers' success when we went to the Cup in '96 and we went to the playoffs in '97 was a guy by the name of Martin Straka.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And we just let him go. So I mean, he was a spark plug for us, and I to this day I don't know why we let him go. And then he goes to Pittsburgh, and I've got over 100 goals in parts of 6 seasons. And it would have been more, but he missed 1 season. He only played like 13 games or something like that.
2 separate stints with Pittsburgh. He was drafted first round by us. Played from '92 to '93, so the season after the back-to-back Cup champions. Same thing with Kovalev. Played for the Penguins when the Penguins weren't good, so that's why a lot of people don't remember him.
All right, the last one I got, I know nobody's got this one on their list, but I had to add it in because he wasn't a great player, but he's a great Panther. He's one of the most popular Panthers among Pantherland, and that is Paul Laus. And he never played for you guys, but we took him out of your minor league system in the expansion draft. And if you look, he played for us, 8, 9, 10 years, something like that off the top of my head. He was our fighter. He was our enforcer. But he was just one of those guys that everybody just loved him as a Pan. So, and he never played for you guys, but we that's who we took in the expansion draft from the Penguins in the first time around was Paul Laus, defenseman.
My honorable mention is Michael Samuelsson, who
Uh-huh.
was traded to the Penguins, or he was traded along with the first overall pick in the 2003 NHL draft. Florida got the number 3 selection, where they were able to draft Nathan Horton, and the Penguins got the first overall selection in arguably the greatest draft class of all time. Right. They chose Marc-Andre Fleury, and it worked out for him pretty damn well.
That worked out pretty well.
All right. Well, thanks for joining me. I appreciate it. I'll see you around, man.
Yeah, man, I appreciate this. This was fun. We'll talk again soon.